We're going from this messy bathroom demo remodel here in San Diego up to...
And welcome to Santa Barbara. All right, good morning. So another day here in Santa Barbara. We're gonna go head over to the Maritime Museum, which is over in Santa Barbara Harbor here. It's about a block away. And take a peek at the exhibits in there. Primarily, they've got a really neat section on commercial diving, because believe it or not, Santa Barbara is one of the locations where commercial diving first got it started here, at least in the United States. So come on along and we'll see what we see. All right, so we've got the Deep Water Diving Monument. This was put together to commemorate all the hard work that the commercial diving industry has been doing over the years. Read the plaque down here. Donated by the local and international diving community, commemorating Santa Barbara as the birthplace of deep water diving, honoring pioneer divers and entrepreneurs locally and worldwide that develop the technology and techniques to explore and preserve underwater resources. So there you go. It's a very large bronze statue of a commercial diver with a Kirby Morgan. It's like a the Mark 17 hard hat. Very cool. All right, here's the plaque. Remember when it was unveiled? So it was unveiled this year, so April 5th, 2025. So it is brand new. It's 8 foot tall and on top of a 2 foot granite base. Weighs 1,100 pounds. Here's the front of the Maritime Museum. We'll take a look here in a minute. But if you wonder why here in Santa Barbara, when so much of Santa Barbara and other surrounding areas here, particularly San Diego, where we spend part of the year, why commercial diving got started up here in Santa Barbara? Well, it has to do with the fact that there are oil deposits off the coast here in Santa Barbara. And I'll show you here in a little bit that they're actually oil rigs that are now decommissioned, but they're oil rigs off the coast. So Santa Barbara was a thriving offshore oil industry back in the 60s and became quite popular. And as a result of that, the commercial diver industry here got started up here with the mission to exploit those oil resources by obviously having commercial divers dive on those rigs. Make our way into the museum. Restaurant off over here to the left. Coffee bar. All right, making our way in here. Got first thing you see here is the gym suit, which is essentially a one atmosphere. You can almost look like a submarine. So literally the gym suit, one person climbs into it. See the hinge point in the front here. The helmet gets lowered down, and you climb into this. And there's onboard scrubbers, obviously breathing apparatus, and you put your arms here in your physical arms in here where the manipulators are at, and obviously your legs go down below, and you get lowered over the side. So this thing is always tethered. So despite it being independent, it is tethered to the surface. So if somebody's hanging on to you, they don't just let you go. You can see a photo over here. The side of what gym suit looks like.
I would like to see this in these place.
And you can see the
Okay.
That's the first thing we see.
O2/recirc system on the back there. says it can last up to 72 hours. And as we look over here, this is a famous article from Dr. Sylvia Earle, who dove the gym suit. I believe this was also Hawaii where she did this. I think I've got this article someplace. This is a few years back, but you can see her being launched here from, looks like Alvin. Oh no, Seastar 2. Okay, this is one of the old submersibles from back in the day. So yeah, she literally got launched, and then, and again, you can see how it's tethered.
I'm just listening to my phone.
And she did a deep dive.
I don't have on my phone.
Got a knockoff of a Mark V Navy dive helmet. No, it's a real. Yeah, it looks like the real thing. So yeah. No, this is a reproduction. So there's a reproduction. I have one of these at home, matter of fact. All copper, spun copper, and repro of the famous Navy Mark V hard hat heavy dive helmet. We'll make our way around here. So in addition to the diving section, which is what I came for, there's a history of Santa Barbara and its original founding. And talking about the history of oil in the Santa Barbara Channel. There's quite a bit of oil here. Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit later. So we're out to the Indians here. This is a step back, give you the view of the canoe. This is one of the native canoes, a reproduction of it. Talking about the geology of oil in Santa Barbara. Now, just like all of Southern California, we had native tribes that lived on the coastal areas here in Southern California, going all the way down to San Diego, actually beyond San Diego, down Baja into parts of Mexico, and all the way up here to Santa Barbara. Otter and seal hunters, history here. There's be a lot of sea otters and seals off the coast, which was another one of those little cottage industries, just like with whaling. And talking about the development of the waterfront here, because obviously when you're offshore hunting mammals, you've got to have some place to tie up to refit and resupply your ship, and Santa Barbara was one of those places. It's called Stearns Wharf. Reproduction there of the wharf. And Santa Barbara over the years. 20s and 30s, 40s and 50s, 60s and 70s. 1980 to the present. All right, so the children's gallery here. And this starts the diving maritime industry here. So a little bit of history was Charisma, which is what you're seeing here. This is a cutaway. We'll see the diving bell outside, but Charisma wasn't the only one that was doing this. Lockheed was doing this as well. I worked with a couple guys who worked at Lockheed who did similar techniques like this with regards to the hemispherical diving bells. But in lieu of just putting a diver out in the water, what these guys did was they locked into a cofferdam, which is basically a big box, which they place over top of the oil rigs and valves, pump it pump the seawater out of it and then pressurize it and then have guys working inside this cofferdam with a big box. But again, this is describing all the fledgling commercial diving work that was done here. You can see the early dry suits was just basically like wearing a Glad bag, a bunch of vulcanized rubber on you. 1963. This is another version of a Mark V helmet. So, I'll give you the full view here of the heavy dive rig here. I've never had a chance to dive the full rig like this. It is, as you can imagine, just looking at this, it is super cumbersome to get around in this. But again, in the 50s and 60s, going back to the 40s, this is all they had. So this is what you wore. And the way it works is there's an umbilical that gets hooked to the helmet in the back. Air gets pumped in, and then you vent gas off the side. And all this weight you see on this guy is literally to hold you down, because this vulcanized suit, this big white suit that he's wearing, is essentially airtight. So yeah, trying to keep the water out. And of course it's got some air in there, so you know you need to be weighted down, otherwise you're gonna be bobbing to the top here. So again, Santa Barbara was considered the home of deep water commercial diving. Keeping in mind that the heavy dress, or the Mark V helmet you're seeing here, really originated with the US Navy, dating back to I would say to the probably late 30s, early 40s. And the Navy really had the market sewn up on that. But it wasn't until, and then you know, some people did it, of course, for personal gain in a commercial sense. But it really got going when there was big money at stake in terms of commercial diving, particularly here in Santa Barbara offshore, when you had money at stake where they wanted to be able to pump oil. Again, we mentioned about the oil rigs and the natural oil formations under the sea bed out here off the coast. So when there was money at stake, all of a sudden people were willing to commit resources to developing different styles of dress. So kind of going from left to right, you kind of got a standard helmet here. And if you notice too, just for clarity's sake, they've taken the cages off the ports here. So again, you got better visibility. You're not looking through a cage here. If you're wondering why these have cages on it, these ones don't, because they're doing work on fixed rigs and they're working on valves and nuts and bolts and such. So you want to be able to have good visibility, and that didn't impede by not having the grid on the front there. It didn't impede their vision any. Cottage industry out here off the coast of Southern California was abalone. So abalone, which you've ever had an abalone, you've had an abalone sandwich, it's quite delicious, being shellfish. And abalone divers would go down and again in that heavy dress with that helmet on and stay for quite a while. And because you may wonder, it's like that looks kind of hot in terms of the big diving apparatus and the suit and all that, but the water is cold off the coast here. Our water is coming down from the Pacific Northwest, so year-round it is pretty chilly in that water. So you need some form of protection, and having that suit definitely helped. As you move over here to the left, different style helmets that evolved over the years. A well-known name in the industry is Kirby Morgan, developing these helmets. And I've dove this Kirby Morgan, I think it's the Mark, well, it's maybe the Mark 17, but that particular helmet, let's see, 47. I've dove the Superlight 17 before. Throw a photo of that up here. And just the evolution of different helmets. I've got a chance to dive this Rat Hat before, the Oceaneering Rat Hat. Didn't particularly care for it. This guy right here. Aquadyne gas helmet in the back here. We've got another Kirby Morgan semi-light. And again, these helmets evolved over the years as people started putting money towards these things, trying to figure out better materials, better ways of gas delivery, heating the gas to allow you to stay warmer longer, because of course breathing gas at depth at those temperatures, it does have a way of chilling your body. So there's a great example of divers in heavy dress, different boats. It's like the one from Oslo, Norway, I think. Example of a local tugboat. And talking about ranching here, which is obviously not maritime, but it is important to the local economy. A lot of ranchers up in the hills here in Santa Barbara. San Miguel Islands. Nice model of a early version of a super yacht, the size of this thing. All right, so this is the Point Conception Lighthouse, I'll say lantern. And I understand from the staff here that this is an original globe. Let's see how this works. Get up close here. This came from the Point Conception Lighthouse. See down here. It's the first lighthouse. Let's see, completed midsummer of 1854. It stood on a 215-foot bluff above the sea level. So you can see that's where they put the light source in that loop right there. And then of course all the reflectors on the outside. So we can see. All right, talking about the environmental concerns here in Southern California. Okay, that little map of everything here. Right, oil rigs. Model, give you an idea of what oil rigs. Oh, certainly, no problem. Give you an idea of the layout of an oil rig. Yeah, so decommissioned platforms, and I'll show you later in the video. There are oil platforms still sitting off the coast. So talking about the oil spills here that happened back in the 60s. Environmental policy changing over the years. We went from a real pro-oil state to one that became very anti-oil in our current configuration. And getting into the surfing culture here. All the short boards. Famous surfers here in Santa Barbara. What it looks like in the wheelhouse here if you're coming into Santa Barbara Harbor. Giving you a better idea here of what the aerial view here of the lighthouse from above.
It's quite a bit of glass. And here's the... All right, and then of course, not to be left out, Santa Barbara was also, particularly during World War II, was involved in military operations. The Honda, which was run aground out here off of Santa Barbara back in the day. An example of a torpedo. The civil defense here, again, this is all World War II, because you got to remember there was a real threat of Japanese invasion or Japanese incursions here on the West Coast. Particularly after they had attacked Pearl Harbor, everyone thought, well, you know, anything's possible, and an Japanese invasion of the West Coast was possible. So these civil defense units were sprung up all over the West Coast, and Santa Barbara was no exception to that. And again, it wasn't lost on the Japanese that there was oil off the coast here, so this would have been potentially a win for the Japanese had they come to the U.S. and, say, captured this part of the West Coast, because they could have exploited the oil resources, which Japan was sorely in need of. And showing you the inside of a submarine. A little periscope here. A working periscope. Look at that. In the control room. We're looking at the periscope. Let's see if we can zoom in a little bit on this. It's actually a working periscope. They've got it set on the roof. You see the periscope sitting on the roof. What was noted specifically off the coast here in Santa Barbara was oil deposits under the sea. So literally offshore, I'll say less than a couple of miles offshore, and I'll show you in a second. There are oil rigs that were put up during the 60s and partially in the 70s. Now, these were built explicitly to extract oil from the seabed and put it in our gas tanks and a lot of the other petroleum products here in the United States, around the world. And we have abundant resources here in Southern California. However, due to negligence, as I understand it, because this was told to me by folks who've lived in Southern California, worked in these industries over the years, back in the day, they were negligent in terms of taking care of those resources that they had. So they had these oil rigs out there, the oil rigs, again, negligent in some areas, so there were discharges, meaning there was oil that had escaped from holding bends and pipelines and such and washed up on the shore and caused environmental disasters, which, of course, over time, the state wasn't having it and declared environmental disasters and emergencies, and in essence shut down the oil industry offshore. And they're pursuing, as we speak in 2025, they're pursuing that same line of thought here in the state, no petroleum at all, despite the fact that we have abundant resources here in California. Go figure. So bottom line was, the state threw the baby out with the bathwater when it came to commercial industry's negligence and not giving them a chance to rectify everything, because again, they just got sick of all the disasters and just shut them off completely. So as a result, pursuing that line of thought, we wind up with a state that is falling behind with regards to getting a hold of petroleum products and putting all our chips in on solar and solar and batteries, which is frankly nuts at this point, and turbines, wind turbines, that's our other thing. So go figure.
Well, if you hung in here this long, I appreciate it. And if you like this content, be sure to like and subscribe. And look forward to putting out a few more videos on Santa Barbara. Bye for now.